I figured since we're in a new year, it's time to reintroduce myself. I've been through an extreme rebirth process for the past 4 to 5 years, and so I was like, yeah, it's time. I'm definitely not the same person that I was, even on a cellular level. And scientifically, we shed our cells every 7 years. So there you go. But if you're new here, hi, my name is Ali. I'm a tarot reader and an intuitive coach. I've been reading tarot for the past 5 years. And during the first year, I just did tarot for my own personal use, and I found it as a useful tool to give myself a bird's eye view of my options because I felt very stuck. I was in an abusive relationship and I navigated my way out strategically using tarot and having a tarot mentor. And then I created an intuitive coaching program during the summer to help people strengthen their inner discernment and use their intuitive mind. I have a lot of people ask me how I got into tarot, especially people that knew me before and people that I meet locally. So I figured that I would curate a video of all my little stories. I have a lot of side quest stories about my process, but I think my first spiritual call was back in 2017 when I felt gravitated towards the library. So I would take me and my kids there about a couple times a week. And at the time, I was also nannying, trying to make an income for myself because I felt blocked from even trying to make money for myself. So I started checking out self-help books, self-improvement, psychology, a little bit of spirituality. I read The Power of Now, all kinds of stuff. And it didn't really click for me until 2020 when I first separated myself and I had my first Reiki service. Now, my Reiki service was through a family friend, and she was a certified Reiki healer. Now, at the time, what intrigued me about getting the Reiki service, because it was completely out of the box of something that I would ever dive into or consider. I was just getting over COVID before COVID was even able to get diagnosed. This was back in January 2020. I was going through another round of bronchitis. I was trying to quit smoking and vaping and also detoxing myself energetically, not knowing that at the time from that toxicity of living in that kind of environment. And so, with that being said, my body was just, it felt horrible. I also have an autoimmune disorder, so I was experiencing a lot of severe pain, more than normal, because I have chronic pain with it. And when she put her hands on me, it released all the pain from my body. I was getting flashbacks, but without the emotions tied to those memories. So, a lot of you guys know that I grew up very religious from a Catholic background, and I don't mean just going to Sunday Mass. I was going to Sunday school, church multiple times of the week at different churches and for different specific reasons. And I went to private school for most of my elementary years up until freshman year. So that kind of gives you the perspective of the kind of box that I was in. I didn't see much of anything else. I was a very sheltered child. I didn't experience a lot of different backgrounds and cultures. I did dive into a little Christianity during my early 20s, but at one point I was atheist. I didn't really know if I believed in anything at all, and that was mostly just because of my beef with my own faith and God, to be honest. Like, it was just a lot of trauma stored in suppression. So, shortly after that Reiki experience, what I noticed after were that colors just seemed more vibrant. They were brighter. The pain that I was experiencing previously left my body, and I started getting a flood of old memories of when I was very young and I used to go to healers with my grandmother, and I remember them telling her the experiences that I would have in the future, and it was definitely things that I was experiencing now. And as a child, I used to talk to spirits. And one of them specifically was a cousin that passed away right before I was born. I found out through looking through family photos. And I don't know when exactly that gift went away. I would assume maybe around 7 to 9. Within that same month, I felt called to get back to my creative self and started drawing and painting again. and I took a Zoom watercolor class and eventually looking at what I wanted to make next. And I came upon tarot art and saw the strength card. And that led me to buy my first deck, started playing with it, realized that my weird ADHD like ways was actually clairvoyant messages this whole time. And so I didn't ever pick up a tarot book. It was just all channeling, and tarot was a tool to make sense of all of that and that part of myself. I did start watching YouTube tarot videos. There were only like a couple people that I leaned towards, mostly Miriam, and I eventually got readings from her a year later just from observing. So, although I woke up in 2020, I believe I had the call many times. I just was refusing to look at it or answer it. It even came in the forms of people that I met through high school, people that I knew through mutual friends that ended up being significant catalysts to my growth and my journey and getting away from the situation. And so I didn't start reading for other people until I practiced on myself for about a year, and my spiritual recovery wasn't till 2023 when I put myself in an Al Anon group for emotional codependency because it was very difficult for me to accept my lane in things and how it just wasn't like me being a scapegoat, me being the black sheep, me just being in a bad situation. Like it was deep seated wounds. I started practicing doing readings on mutual friends, some family members, but not all. Put myself into Facebook groups with other readers where you can practice on each other for free, and groups where people were looking for free readings. And so that gave me really good practice. And then eventually, 1 to 2 years in, I started charging for services. And so that's the gist of it without all the details and side stories, but still down the rabbit hole we continue. There's so much out there to learn. And to be honest, I don't think if it were for that Reiki service, I would be where I'm at today. That was such a huge part of it. I don't think I would have woke up or got away from the situation. I don't think I would be a tarot reader. And I'm a big believer in holistic health and looking at different avenues and how to heal yourself and however it resonates. A lot of people ask me to explain my username. So, synchronicities were a huge part of me channeling signs and paying attention to signs, understanding them. And so, synchronistic alley. I turned it into a pun. Get it? So, I still study synchronicities. I read Carl Jung books. That was part of like my psychology library dig, and I started studying astrology, numerology, all the history of it, and I was just mind blown. Like this information was there the whole time. It was there the whole time, and it was something that I always gravitated towards since I was little. Like when I was a kid, my room was all sun, moon, and stars. And I did get my first tarot deck when I was 9, but it was frowned upon. I did always have premonition dreams, and that's something that never really went away, even during that whole process. I think the earliest memory I have is when I was 4, and I did have repeating dreams during my first spiritual call that were kind of haunting me because I was refusing to answer it. So when I got into tarot, I started journaling and dream interpreting for myself, found it extremely accurate and useful, and so I started dream interpreting for other people. It is my belief that the dreams come from universe signs, your higher self, your subconscious, and that there is usually always a deeper meaning behind it. I believe we're all born with intuition. It's just something that gets suppressed over time due to societal conditions, expectations from family and friends, battling with our own ego, putting pressure on ourselves, overstimulation due to all the technology and hustle culture. So, with that being said, that's why I made the intuitive coaching program to help strengthen that inner discernment that we're all born with. Now, how strong your intuition is really reliant due to the spiritual work, which is called shadow work. I'm a big believer in that. And What shadow work is, it's about integrating your shadow instead of repressing it and denying those negative things that we deem negative, and alchemizing the energy and accepting ourselves fully. So, ripping out all the shame, all the icky things that we don't want to look at, but really fully loving ourselves. The intuitive coaching program is 6 months of 3 emailed readings a month, including coaching and mentorship with me. You also get access to Patreon, where we're building a community so that you don't feel like you're doing this alone. Because in my experience, I was doing a good chunk of it alone. And it would have been nice to meet my mentor a little bit sooner, because I definitely felt lost. I felt stuck, but with tarot being a useful tool for me, I realized we are never really stuck. It's more about mentality, self limiting beliefs, pressure from other people, not knowing if what we're seeing is what we're really seeing. So we try to take it slow, look at your birth chart, look at your karma, the subconscious patterns, the things that you might not even be aware of, but also very validating, because you might also feel called to it but don't know what to do about it. On my Patreon, I share my dream journal, the extended version of my shadow work journal prompts that I post on Instagram, as well as free journal prompts for you to use on your own personal time. I also have a newsletter, a referral list to other lightworkers, healers, and readers that I collaborate with and got to know over time, so you don't feel like you're getting scammed. I also have manifestation tools, daily reminders. Sometimes I post Vimeo videos for all signs for tarot readings, and we just started getting consistent on YouTube live streams, so I plan to put extended videos over there as well. So with that being said, I hope my story resonates with you. And if you're feeling called to have a coach or a mentor, I am here to be of service to you, and I am honored to be a part of your spiritual journey, because no one has to do it alone.